Alright, BobalosRex here, and as you can tell, I'm in an order hall. And that is because, in this video, we're going to be talking all about the class order halls. Now, I've done a video before talking about the class order halls returning and all this stuff, and I did talk about some stuff there that I'm probably going to pick up here. I've talked about evokers getting order halls, but this lore rant, is almost like class order halls 2. But in this one, I want to talk about. Do y'all remember the class campaigns? The cool quest lines we did for a class. Some of the stuff was boring, like the mission table quests. I'm not really talking about those, but like going around, I guess doing some dungeons and getting special items was a little good. Especially, imagine that now with follower dungeons. But you got to go around and do stuff specific to your class. You got to get characters specific to your class to run missions and stuff. So in this video, I want to talk about the characters I'd like to see. Some stories, right? Because think about it. We had the order halls back in Legion, right? And since then, what has happened? What have they been doing? And to go along with yesterday's video, right? I want order halls to return, right? I know it's a hard thing. I know a lot of this would be way hard, and especially me, I want to give each class a new order hall, a new order, and new stories, right? So in this lore rant, I'm just going to be talking about the lore I'd like to see for each of the class order hall campaigns. Maybe if we got it continued. What have the classes been up to since Legion? We've had BFA, where the class order halls kind of broke up. We have had Shadowlands and Dragonflight, and now the War Within. What have the classes, these orders, been up to? Because we've seen some of them active in these expansions, right? The Death Knights in Shadowland, the Knights of the Ebon Blade, some members of the Illidari acting up in this next patch coming up. So yeah, in this video I'm going to be talking about each of the class order halls, going through some stuff and thinking about what may be next for each of them, right? Where would a class hall campaign 2? So, as I mentioned, new orders, new halls, new stories. So, the Demon Hunters up here on Mardoon, the Fellhammer, this is just a spaceship, right? The Demon Hunters deserve better. Alright? Demon Hunters deserve much better than a spaceship over a piece of land we can't even go back down to. Alright? Won't even let us go back down and fly around our little planet here. Alright, so what's the deal? Where do Demon Hunters go? If you've seen my last video, you know where I want to put Demon Hunters. Demon Hunters, if we do order halls again, there is all this. Literally, you cannot fly behind Black Temple. Order hall. Order hall. Demon Hunter order hall, please. Demon Hunter order hall in Black Temple would be amazing. Literally, the class campaign writes itself. Yo, Illidari. Illidan's gone. I feel like something cool at the end of this questline would be great, but imagine the questline starting like, hey, we had this Void dude, we got our 3rd spec, we brought in these Void Elves now, or maybe they're getting ready to, and the Illidari are like, yo, Illidan's not our leader, we're more of a group now, what do we call ourselves now? I think we could get a new order that is basically the Illidari, bringing in more Demon Hunters, alright, maybe consolidating some of the people we got here, because look, we got Naga, Will some of them, more of them, be allied with the Demon Hunters? Or did they dip during like BFA? You know, what is Corvus up to? We got Jace. I would love to see a lot of the Demon Hunter class campaign continue. We would get a canon Altruis or Kane, right? Did we do the Shadow Akama or not? That would be something that would need to be answered if the Demon Hunter stuff continued. I think it could be cool. And maybe, right, I picked Altruis, right? Maybe some of the lore would be Kane and Altruis, you know, being like, hey, Illidan came back, we fought the Legion. Altruis would have to admit, yo, I was wrong about Illidan. Kane would have to admit some of what Illidan did. Like, even Illidan was like, yeah, I was right, but I'd done goofs sometimes. So it'd be a little bit cooler to see them two hash it out. And us maybe get a new name for the Illidari that isn't just Illidan's cronies and are like, we are the Demon Hunters. It's a new age. We are training new Demon Hunters in Black Temple. And we kind of get some Rusted Legion style stuff, if you know Hearthstone. But it's basically Demon Hunters cleaning up remnants in Outland. You know, remnant demons in Black Temple. We get the Black Temple secured. Start training new Demon Hunters. Maybe that's how we get our Void Elf Demon Hunters. Nightborn. And of course, y'all know I want Draenei with the common, the broken Draenei. The broken combining with the Illidari. Okay. The Coil Scar Naga, I guess, maybe combining with the Illidari proper. Us still having some of these demons, and instead of being the Illidari, it's a new thing. Right? And we're in Black Temple. The broken have like, even maybe the Illidari help the broken restore part of the temple for them. Right? It's like a joint effort. That would be cool. Right? Then we could see, like I said, some demons in Outland. Ashes of Outland style. And one of the things I think would be cool, and I mentioned in yesterday's video, is I would love for some of the class campaigns to hint at future things. Right? So imagine the Demon Hunter questline. They do all this stuff. They change the name. They're like, hey, we're recruiting more. Hopefully Illidan would be proud. Because as much as we're not going to call ourselves the Illidari, it's still, like, there'd be still some iconography. You can't remove Demon Hunters and Illidan, but it would be, at least we'd have a new order. I can't really think of a good name for the Demon Hunters, but I do think they could get a new order. They should get a new name. But then, they do all that, they're like, yo, Illidan would be proud. And then the Sargerite Keystone or something pops out of void, nether space, like sent through the nether, and we're like, what? And it's a message from Illidan being like, yo, the Titans are returning, prepare. And that's it. That's all that we get. And it's like, oh shit, the Demon Hunters would be like, yo, last Titan, he's coming back. Imagine how hyped that was. Imagine if the class, or, ooh, I just got a good thing here. Imagine us getting class halls back, right? Blizzard tells us the class campaigns, the new ones are going to be good. The PTR, you get to do a little bit, but you don't get to do a lot. So there's a lot of mysteries, right? Imagine 13 different oh my god moments at the end of all these campaigns that the whole internet that starts spreading, right? You'd be like, oh, this 12 spoilers because I'm only playing one class. I think that would be cool, though, for the community to be like, yo, did you do this one? Do you know about you know what? And people are like, what? What happened? Oh, yo, you gotta play that class so you know. And it's like, oh my goodness. I think it'd be cool. I guess there would be a lot of spoilers around, but to the people that things can be spoiled for me, and it doesn't really ruin my enjoyment, especially if it's good. But everyone's different. But I think that having little hints like that for possible futures in the class campaigns would be really sweet. And like I said, maybe some classes get some stuff one patch, maybe some classes get stuff another patch, like in the in between, right? Ideally, I'd want, if we get class campaigns again, them to last the whole expansion. But of course, one patch, the starting patch, would have the big ones, right? Your starting ones. Again, I think that would be cool. But yeah, that's what I would think for Demon Hunters, right? And then for goodies for Demon Hunters, of course, I would want the mission tables. We'd get to find out what's up with the comma. The only new stuff with Demon Hunters is actually recently, you know, in the next patch, and that has people questioning, like, yo, are we going to get the third spec? Are there going to be Void Elf Demon Hunters? This and that. This could be the time, right? That we actually maybe get some hints for some Demon Hunter stuff. But overall, if you look at Shadowlands, look at Dragonflight, look at BFA, the Demon Hunters, the Illidari have just been around. The Illidari have been fighting each other, you know? So overall, the Illidari have just been around, you know? Unlike some of the classes we're going to talk about, and that takes me to, let's go to the next class, right? Death Knights. Death Knights were very involved, right? And the Death Knight order of the class hall is the Knights of the Ebon Blade. The Knights of the Ebon Blade, that is the, like that rep in Wrath of the Lich King. Alright, it's the same crew. And I'm sitting here, when I was going over new halls, new orders, new stories, I was like, yo, is it about time for the Knights of the Ebon Blade to get a makeover, right? They have followed Bolvar. They have gone to the Shadowlands, seen the realms of the dead, opened portals to the realms of the dead to help adventurers through. The Lich King is gone. The Scourge is rampant, right? We know the Knights of the Ebon Blade still have their forts all around. Though Northrend apparently is crazy with Scourge. Or some of the reports. So it's like, what could we do with the Death Knights, right? We could keep Acaris. We could keep Knights of the Ebon Blade. But I'm sitting here like, maybe it's about time the Death Knights upgrade. Now you could think, and here, I'm getting close to it, could the Death Knights put their order hall in Icecrown Citadel itself? Maybe. Maybe. Maybe Death Knights could be like, yo, we gonna hunker down in a stationary spot, ICC, and we could have a questline in Northrend for the Death Knights, quelling the Scourge, and they get to hop around Northrend. This is... I didn't really write this one down. I'm kind of just feeding this, but this could be a thing, right? They meet up with the Sand Lane, bring some Sand Lane in. Having the Death Knight Order Hall station in Icecrown, you can have like a new portal here. They go into this portal, and then there's a special version of Icecrown. But what I wrote down is the Order Hall I actually want. I feel like this could work. Icecrown Citadel could work. But I really want Naxxramas. I really like the Dread Citadels. Acaris is great, right? I love having Acaris, this mobile. Death Knights having the mobile fortress is key. But they deserve a better one. Is Acaris really the state of the art in Dread Citadels? Alright, is it? Because Naxxramas is bigger. Alright, I feel like Naxxramas is better. I would love to see Death Knights, one, upgrade the order, right? Now we got Bolvar. Are we just Knights of the Silver Blade? Are we new Knights? Bolvar has lost the crown. We have no king. Are we Knights? Or are we something else? You know, at this point, I feel like they are due for a makeover, an upgrade. Maybe take some tips from Maldraxxus, right? We got our 4 horsemen. What can the Death Knights do for their new campaign? I said it. Contain the Scourge, right? We can have it set in Northrend if they want to do the ICC. I mean, I think some Death Knights would like the ICC Order Hall idea. But I personally started with the idea for Naxxramas, and it float around and us literally contain the Scourge all around the world, right? You can have our early quest lines containing Scourge, helping out where we're at, right? Dread Citadels back in Northern Lordaeron, baby. It's Nax. Everyone sees Naxxramas pull up and they're like, oh my god! And then it's the Death Knights, the new Knights of the Ebon Blade, or like I said, something else, you know. For some of these, the orders can stick around, but for some, I think they should do more. And for a lot of these, you do need a new order hall, which is why I want to give everyone a new order hall. Whether or not some people are going to agree with me over a new one for each, I want to give each of the classes a new order hall, and maybe think of a way to have them be like, we're doing a new order now because we're combining these forces, or we're turning over a new leaf or something. But yeah, so we could have the campaign start. We're helping contain Scourge here. Boom, solve that. Maybe have a fun little quest over to Duskwood, Karazhan. Deal with some Scourge down there. Then, bloop, 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 we can have them go everywhere. The Scourge somewhere over here, Scourge over there, Scourge over there. And then, I would like, maybe in a couple of patches before we head into the Last Titan, maybe have a campaign in Northrend that hints at what could be going on in the Last Titan. Or maybe clears out the Scourge so we can know that there isn't going to be Scourge in the Last Titan. You know, maybe if Last Titan's going to be more focused on Titan stuff or other stuff, and they want to be less Scourge, the Death Knights clearing out the Scourge problem in Northrend would be a good way to do that in game, right? Integrate the Sand Lane. I really want the Sand Lane. I think they're really unlikely, but they try to join the Horde. Maybe they can join the new Knights, right? Could we see Drakthir and Earthen become Death Knights through the Death Knight campaign? Give us a reason for them. Maybe they experiment. Maybe an Earthen shows up and is like, yo, I want to be a Death Knight. And they're like, bro, you can't. And they're just like, no, come on, try, please. And they figure it out. They engrave runes on the Earthen, and he can become a Death Earthen. You know? It'd be cool to do it in-game. And then, of course, more 4 Horsemen stuff. I mean, literally, a class hero talent tree is basically 4 Horsemen. It's for the other specs. But yeah. I want to see stuff happening. Imagine Whitemane fighting Scarlets. Again. I feel like she did a little bit in the questline. Maybe we did. All I know is it'd be sick. You know, Nazgrim. You know, getting to hang out with the people again. The Horde again. Thoris Trollbane. Maybe we're up there. Arathi, Red Dawn, Thoris Trollbane. Imagine Daneth being like, I know you. You my ancestor. What? You know, I think it'd be interesting that they could do here. And as far as Death Knight people to hang out, of course the 4 Horsemen. Let's take a look at some of the other people. Where's the dang table? There it is. Let's see who we got. We got Darian Morgraine, of course. Be cool to see some stuff with him. Maybe some Corrupted Ashbringer stuff. the Sarian and Koltira, you know, we all see what they be doing. Good for them. And, yeah, I think it'd be cool if they do some Maldraxxus stuff in the future. Maybe Maldraxxus, maybe, right? Maybe the storyline is the Knights of the Ebon Blade, having been to the Shadowlands, you know, hung out in Maldraxxus, are like, yo, we're going to make the next level of floating dread citadels. Alright? And we get new Nex. Or new Acarus. You know, we get some... We saw Night Fae in the Emerald Dream patch. You're telling me a couple of people from Maldraxxus, maybe Draka makes a cameo in the Death Knight questline? Like, yo, what's up? We can give y'all a couple of forces to fight the Void, because that would be the thing, right? The class order halls getting together to fight the Void. Draka pulling up, being like, yo, we can help you out, because we've seen in the cutscene Draka pulling up on Legion worlds and shit. So there's stuff to be done. But I think that's enough for Death Knights. Some stuff to think about there. I think it'd be cool. I think Death Knights would be cool. So next up, we're moving to Druid. Alright, I'm doing it in class order. So, what's the Druid order? Cenarian Circle, right? It's great having trolls and stuff in the Cenarian Circle. Val'sharah as a place for the Druid Order Hall in Legion was great. But if we're going to place a Druid Order Hall, alright, and have a true Druid Order for all, then I want to place it somewhere else, right? Now, some people could think we could put it, like, in the Emerald Dream. Now that we got it over at Dragon Isles, like, straight up, we go to the Emerald Dream, you know? But I don't think we put the Druid Order Hall in the Emerald Dream. I do like the Druid Emerald Portal. You know, how great is it for Druids to have the freaking Emerald Portal over here? The Emerald Dreamway to get around. Like, don't get me wrong. I love Val'sharah. But to me, I feel like every Druid should knows where the Order Hall should have been, truthfully. Even though the Val'sharah one was good. The original Druid Order Hall is Moonglade. And in my opinion, they need it. Give Druids Moonglade Order Hall. The Cenarian Circle, as diverse as it is, since Legion, Druids kind of didn't take a side, and I think some of the Tauren and Night Elves stuff got a little intense. But the Druids were put in a big bind in BFA, so since then, we've now had Zandalari Druids, Kultiran Druids, all sorts of new Druids, or a couple of new Druids, right? New orders of Druids. The Cenarian Circle is outdated. We got Loa, we got Wild Gods. I think it's about time the Cenarian Circle get together with the Troll Druids of Zandalar, the Darkspear, and all these orders, and we get a new Druid order that isn't just Cenarius focused, it's for all the Wild Gods, okay? Is the base Moonglade near Hyjal? Yes, but I would love to see Loa involved in this order, alright? I would love to see some of the Wild Gods that haven't come back yet brought back. You know, we saw a lot of them in the Emerald Dream. The Druid Order Hall should be as populated. Maybe have them coming in and out, right? One day, Aviana's here. The next day, Asina's here. right? The next day, Gonk is showing up. The next day, Torkala, right? I would love to see that in the true Druid Order Hall in Moonglade, right? And that's a zone. I would like these Order Halls to be a little bit meaty too. That whole zone. Just give it the old version everybody else shows up to, the new version for Druids. Straight up. Bada boom. You have Night Elf main city area, Night Elf area. Zentabra has a hut over here. Give us a whole troll area. Let's see the Zandalari putting up little stuff here, right? I think that would be sweet. Could this be a little too much Alliance and Horde Pete? Bro, it would be Alliance and Horde stuff. Yeah, they're at peace. That's what it is. I think it's cool. It'd be the Alliance and Horde getting stuff in story, and I think that's good. Now, what could they be doing? Like I said, I'm thinking Druids going around helping Loa, helping Wild Gods. And what I would like to see, you know, we saw Night Fae in the Emerald Dream patch. If we see the Druids working with the Night Fae, working with the Emerald Dream, then the Druid questline could give us some Vol'jin hints. Right? Right now, Vol'jin is in a seed. He's been in there for like 4+ years now. What's going on? What's going on? If the Druids, if the Druid questline takes us into the Emerald Dream, into the Ardenweald, maybe we get a little Vol'jin hints when he's going to be back. Is it soon? You know? Also, Druids of the Flame. I'm going to mention them later too, but I think the Druids, we already see the Night Elves trying to reintegrate some Druids of the Flame. How about the Druid Order integrates the Druids of the Flame, right? A little bit of Elemental Druids, right? A little bit of mix, a little bit of growth decay. Maybe we, like, well, fire is like the middle ground, but maybe we get a little decay Druids and the Order be more united, right? Because mushrooms, you know, are on that decay side of Druid, but we need them, right? Plants die, we get mushrooms, we get decomposers. We could see a more united order of Druids and stuff that I think would be really cool. Alright. Next class doesn't actually have an order hall. And I've already done a whole video on it. So I'm mainly just gonna like mention it in between this next one. I'm going to Hunter next, but let's talk about Evoker. So Evokers have their own video. You can check out my Evoker Order Hall. Now, as for a questline, Evokers, in my opinion, would be good to establish their own creche, like a united creche for Evokers, because we now have creches that are having Drakthir, warriors, rogues, mages, all these other kinds of Evoker or Drakthir. If we're doing an Evoker Order Hall, I would like the Evokers to establish a creche of Evokers. Maybe see some more Adamantia story. Have stories where Evokers are helping out the Dragonflights for power. Like maybe getting a little powered up. Maybe that's how we get Druids for Drakthir. Like this Evoker Order Hall is doing stuff as Evokers while helping Drakthir as a whole. I think would be cool. And see them, you know, helping out the dragons. And help facilitating the return of the Black Flight with Rathian, you know, Adamantia, Sibylian, and Evanhorn. I think would be cool. So, let's move on to the place where I'm actually at, the Hunter Order Hall. Now, what's interesting about the Hunter Order Hall is basically we are a group of the secret hunters. We've always been a group. We are the unseen path. You know, they kind of came out of nowhere. But, like, the rogue one did too. But the rogue one just, like, feels really good. The hunter one, is super good too. I'm not going to knock the hunter one. But this one more came out of nowhere. It's like, what? All the hunters are, like, in this secret group for this wild god, Onara? And then that made me think, like, yo, Onara's back. And there's more hunts to be had. And that's what led me to, if we were going to get a new Hunter Order Hall, could it be in the Dragon Isles? Could hunters basically, could this unseen order, now that Onara is, you know, able to be out and about more, maybe they move over to hang out with the centaurs. I think that'd be really cool. If they were going to get a new area, I do really like the True Shot Lodge, so if hunters were one of the ones that stayed the same, it would work, honestly. You know, this unseen order that includes all the different types of hunters, you see, I think could work good. Secret hunting lodge in the mountain. But what I was really thinking, right, is you could set up a new hunting lodge in Onaran Plains, hang out with the centaur, incorporate them, and maybe have great hunts all across Azeroth. And the quest line be about, you know, doing these great hunts across Azeroth to help the wildlife. Because that's partly what the hunts do. Like, they quell, like, the bigger predators. That kind of stuff. They're supposed, like, in the WoW stuff. Yeah. But imagine, I was thinking, imagine hunters, like, I know Death Knight already have their own floating fortress, and this is kind of eaten into Death Knights. But imagine hunters having a floating airbase made by Nessingwary. How would y'all feel about that? Is it it's crazy as fuck. Okay, listen. Nessingwary making an airship that floats around the world like at the Alag camp, doing great hunts around the continents, is a cracked out theory for hunters. But how do y'all feel about that? Right? Would y'all want a new lodge? Would you want the old lodge? I think the unseen order should change for sure. And, you know, what have the hunters been up to? You know, other than fighting each other in BFA, going to the Undead Realms. One of the characters I think would be cool, right? This character I think would be really cool to show up. Oh, I didn't look at the Druid companions, but one of the hunter ones. Here. Where are they? Oh, shoot. Maybe I missed it. Oh, they're not an ally, but Holm High Mountain. We now he has his own. We've met him in Ardenweald. Holm High Mountain himself could pop up and be like, yo, hunters, good job. Right? I think that would be cool to have him pop up. So, Global Great Hunt. Also put here, maybe Nessingwary dies and he gets a funeral in the Hunter Order Hall. Maybe that's at some point later, right? I'm not saying take him out now, but maybe sometime later he goes out, the hunters mourn, Deatha cheers, you know, and then life goes on. But I think it'd be cool to have that, like, global hunt. That was the biggest thing for hunters. If the hunters were going to get, like, a storyline, it would be going around being like, yo, we're going to hunt over here. We're going to hunt over here. Or meeting up with Onara and doing stuff with Onara, right? You can do that, right? But I do think if they meet up with Onara and they have a base here or they have the floating fortress, they'd be going around doing centaur hunts. Maybe the storyline could be about Onara with the hunters taking the centaur. Timul! Oh my goodness, it could be Timul. Where is it? Is that the right name I'm thinking of? All I know is you take the one hunt character and take them all around the worlds. The Centaur, the true Centaur return to Kalimdor. Alright, I think that'd be cool. Now, that's it for Hunter. They already got like most... See, they got Dark Rangers here. They got Mimiron here. We could do Mimiron stuff. But I feel like getting closer to Last Titan, we may want to hedge away from the Titan stuff. We're going to talk about that more in the Warrior one for sure. But Mages. So Mages Order is the Tiras Guard. Not the Kirin not the... I guess, yeah, not the Kirin It's the Tiras Guard, right? Secret Mage Group. Now, most likely, I'm going to take a guess, right? I'm going to take a guess that the Hall of Guardian inside Dalaran kind of blew up with Dalaran, right? You know, in the aftermath of Dalaran, we actually see rogue mages and warlocks dealing with Dalaran getting exploded. So, some of the ones that may need to look into new places for sure. Mages, rogues. And, so that's why I've kind of been giving everybody new ones. Now, what's the deal with mages, right? So, we're the Tiras Guard, we're like the extra order of mages, right? But then... So what happened with the Tiras Guard, right? Since Dalaran exploded. Like, mages really have to deal with this stuff. And I was reading through the stuff with Aethys and Meryl and rebuilding of an order, right? They don't want a new floating city. Alright, so of course... I'm thinking, does the Tiras Guard reform? Clearly, they reform anew. Does it look like Aethys and them are going to be forming a new order with the mage player character? I would think so, right? And I would love to see all the mages get together and rebuild a Dalaran, a new Dalaran, right? So we could have the new Dalaran over here. But they may turn away from that. Aethys was talking about being more mobile, but I was still thinking like, he was talking for the mainline Kirin Tor. I think if we're going to get a new order of mages, a new mage order hall would be the best way to do it. And it could be a new city, but I've been turning away from that idea. More people want to say we're not going to get Dalaran and Northrend. And maybe that's true. Let's go with that. No new Dalaran. Where would the mages hold up? Where's everybody farming right now? Karazhan. Hall of the Guardian? How about Tower of the Guardian? And what is the Mage Order Hall campaign going to be about? Well... all the artifacts exploded from Dalaran. Maybe recouping some from the Nexus. Mages got a lot of problems they can go around solving, but I think the main storyline of the early Mage Hall would be, hey, let us start that new order, Aethys. Call up the Mage player character, hey, we're going to fight the Void. A lot of these class order halls, I think, could come back for Midnight, for fighting the Void. We saw... Legion, we were fighting the Legion, so they all came back around. And now we've had a time skip. I think perfect time. We're seeing the mages. New mage order, new name, Order of Tears something, Guardian Mages. I don't know. They could name it whatever they want. The Violet Eye. Maybe we go back to a Violet name. But I would love to see the mages, new mage order hall in Karazhan, and them basically reforming that order. Going around, like we went around with the Blue Dragons. We going around getting our mage crew back together. Mana Storm, you in this or you out? Right? We already know Aethys is in. Meryl's in. We hitting up Mana Storm. What about this guy? What about her? Modera, Caligos, they're in. You know, we could be running around with Jaina, recruiting Kultiran mages. Oh, we did finally get those. I'm pretty sure we got those now because they gave everybody mages. But yeah, I think it'd be good. Incorporate some orc mages. Maybe it's... I got it. It's a new school. It's a new school of magic. New Scholomance in Karazhan. A new school of magic in Karazhan. The Mage Order Hall. It's you and the big mages. Bada boom. I like that. Let me know what y'all think. So, oh, we could also have, during the one quest line, you deal with Kel'Thuzad's simulacrum. Imagine having a Kel'Thuzad's mage bodyguard. Some people would like that. But it'd be like it would be the simulacrum, so it wouldn't be the real Kel'Thuzad. But he could show up. Maybe they give hints at him returning back for a future expansion, you know. So, let's move on to the next one. Oh, the next one is monks. So, the monks' order hall is the Wandering Isle right now, right? So, monks right now have the only way to get back to the Wandering Isle. Normal Pandaren cannot. Pandaren, that literally started on this isle, if you're not a monk, you cannot return. That is crazy. So, the first part of this is basically Monk Order Hall needs to get opened up to all Pandaren in like a Pandaren heritage, right? The Wandering Isle should be available to Pandaren, right? The player character Pandaren should be able to get back to the Wandering Isle. If they can all of a sudden, and I don't remember them being able to, then I guess I just forgot. But monks can, but normal Pandaren can't, and I think that's silly, right? And here's the thing. What was the monk order called? Okay, it was called Order of the Broken Temple. It's been 5 years. Peak of Serenity should have been rebuilt. Right? Sora Dormy's here, like, travel to a new point for the Peak of Serenity because the Peak of Serenity has to be fit. Yo. Give monks the Peak of Serenity back. Have the storyline where it's like, yo, Peak of Serenity's back. We rebuilt it. Asa and G are front and center, working together. Chen Stormstout, Lily grown up. August Celestials, Peak of Serenity popping off. Then, if it's already popping off because it's been rebuilt or still being rebuilt, they call back the monk and we're like, hey, we're in the final stages. It's time. Let's lock this in. And then the monk gets to go around, do some maybe Shaw stomping down shenanigans. Maybe the Shaw is kind of acting up again. I wonder why. I don't know why, but it's acting up again. You know, put it down a little bit. Giving a little hints to the future. But monks doing some cool stuff. The Order of the Broken Temple, no more. Maybe we can get Golden Lotus joining up. Shadowpan joining up. Right? And then we can maybe even get some cool Veil stuff. Maybe talking to the Rajani. Maybe hints at Mogu stuff in the future. In the Pandaren questline. Like the Rajani are like, hey, Ra may be gone, but we're still around. And we're actually good Mogu. And we'll work with the monks. And give us teasers for down the line Mogu stuff. I think that would be cool for monks. You know, I think they'd have a pretty solid place going back to the peak. Give Pandaren a way to get back to their island and the Pandaren heritage. That's good. Good times. Alright. Next up. Now, so, like I said, in BFA, We didn't see much for Orders of the Monk. I guess Isa and G fighting counts. Shadowlands, monks didn't do anything. Dragonflight, monks didn't do anything. War Within, monks didn't do anything but be around, you know, the player character monk. But us monks rebuilding the temple, that's G story, that's Isa's story. Pandaren Heritage can literally hint at that. Like, hey, in the Pandaren Heritage, they're basically moving out from the Wandering Isle, right? Like, the Pandaren come in, like, hey, we're back at the Isle, it's so great. And then you'll see some Order of the Broken Temple, or maybe hints at the New Order name, and saying, oh yeah, we're packing up, we're heading back to the peak. I think it would be cool. I think it'd be a cool way to hint at that. Now, let's talk about Paladin. We gotta talk about Paladin. So, the Paladin Order and Order Hall are pretty solid, right? Order of the Silver Hand and the the Sanctum of Light, right? But here's the thing. We know directly after in BFA the Order of the Silver Hand that we had here with the Tauren, with the Blood Knights, with that immediately separated. Okay, so the Blood Elves, the humans and stuff, and the Knights, they all split. Paladins fought in the war. And it was really bad for the Paladins, right? So in my opinion, the Knights of the Silver Hand would be joining this new Paladin Order, but it can no longer be named Knights of the Silver Hand, right? If we're going to have a Paladin Order, it needs to be a new order. The reason I'm flying out, I don't know. But the Paladins need a new order. Straight up. So, like, the Blood Knights, the Knights of the Silver Hand, and all the Sunwalkers, the Prelates, the Zandalari Prelates, and all the new Paladins that we got since then. Dark Iron Paladins, I don't know, are a part of the Silver Hand. But we'd see all these orders of Paladins recombine into a new order of Paladins. Would that new order of Paladins be stationed here in the Sanctum of Light? It could be. This is one of the great ones in my opinion. But because of how that went down, maybe by then we got Night Elf Paladins, I feel like they would need a new area, right? Maybe no longer hidden in a spot down here. So there are a few spots I was thinking. And one of the neutral orders, actually, I should have mentioned this. So, we actually already see a neutral order popping up. Right? The Tears Guard. Right? We have the Tears Guard. We literally see Knights of the Silver Hand and Blood Knights inside the little room here, talking about like what's going on with the Tears Guard and whatnot, and how they're reintegrating Paladins together. You got Zandalari Paladins working with cool Tauren Paladins that aren't playable yet. What's going on with that? Working to help Tyr, to show Tyr around. So, if we're not going to return either to... very easily, I feel like we could put a new Paladin Cathedral and something here in Northern Lordaeron, here in Northern Eastern Kingdoms. But I was really liking this idea of the Tears Guard holding up in Tyr's Hold. Paladins, what do you think? The new order of group Paladins, of course it will include Knights of the Silver Hand. It will include Zandalari Prelates. It will include new Night Elf Paladins. Right? It'd be a group for all these Paladins. Right? Or Night Elf Paladins down the line. Right? Well, Undead Paladins down the line too. But it'd be a new order of Tears Guard holding up in either Tyr's Hold or Tyr's tomb, right? They'd have to clear out Tyr's tomb. That could be a whole thing. But I think the Tyr's Guard is the way we get the new Order of Paladins, and a new Order Hall could be there. And what they would be doing, what would the quest be, right? One, showing out how all the Paladins can be together again, like the Knights were during Legion. One of the Knights even mentions that when you talk to him in Tyr's Hold, if you've done the Tyr quest. He mentions how, yep, Paladins came together, but it hasn't been that way for a while. It'd be a good way to bring them all together at a more neutral place, either Tyr Hold, Tyr's Tomb. Not all Paladins, are tier-based like Zandalari, but we see a Zandalari Paladin, be like, yo, I got respect for Tyr, though. He's cool. I seen what he did. He's cool. And now we could see this group of Paladins showing Tyr around. And of course, you're doing Tyr stuff, you're doing Paladin stuff. It could give us hints for the Last Titan very easily. Now, we still got a couple of classes to go. Let's start cranking. Let's start going through these ideas here. I need to get back in here for the logout. Alright. So, next up is Priest. Priest, their Order Hall is in space. The portal to it was in Dalaran. So, as far as I'm concerned, Priest, as pretty as this was, need a new Order Hall. And I want it on Azeroth. You may have seen in my other video, I kind of put it maybe Scarlet Monastery. But I do think we could have a whole quest line where it's the Conclave, all these different priests, New Kalia, Anduin, a ton of leaders are priests, but I would like to see this stuff with like the Cult of Forgotten Shadows and the Church of the Holy Light. We actually see them work together in this. But I would like to see that as a storyline, right? The Conclave being like, yo, not only do we need a new temple, or not only do we need to bring together the priests of light and shadow to fight the void in midnight, or whatever we bring the Order Halls together for, but we bring the Church of Holy Light and the Church of Forgotten Shadows together at a neutral ground, or maybe a little bit north. You can sneak a place right there because it's kind of blocked off right now. We can get a new monastery, because I don't really see a neutral area that's like heavily light influenced. If y'all can think of a better area for a priest to actually plant a new church of light and shadow on Azeroth, let me know. But I think Northern Lordaeron would be a good spot. If it's near the Paladin one, we've already seen them work together. So if they're holed up in Tyr's Tomb, you got the priests over here, so it'd be like, boot, new spot there, new spot there. After what happened to... Because remember, in modern day, this is all blown out. I'd assume a lot of this stuff over here and stuff is messed up too. So, we can basically be rebuilding Lordaeron here in a patch zone in midnight. So, or during midnight. So I could see a new priest order hall here near the Paladin one with the Tyr's Guard. Now what the priests call themselves with this merging, I don't know. But I would love to see Zandalari priests included, Loa priests. Talanji is another priest leader that I could see working with. Well, it'd be a little strange, but I would love to see Talanji included in this priest stuff. Because Talanji's on the same side as Kalia, technically. Kalia will work with Anduin, Anduin will work with Valen, and Tyrande will work with them. Hopefully now at this point. I think we could see some next level priests coming together, because priests' beliefs are so varied, but to see them come together again after the stuff that happened, because we did see some major lore stuff here, like the Naru here is the Naru that brought back frickin' Alia. So we could come back to Netherlight Temple, but I would like this idea of like, yo, we need a place on Azeroth. You know? We need a place on Azeroth. Okay. So, let's move on to rogues. We all know where I want rogues, right? Ravenholt, that's where rogues should go. Now, what could be the rogue story? One, rebuilding the order. But here's the thing, right? I said New Order Hall. We got that, Ravenholt. Maybe a new spot. We could pick a new spot. There's a couple of spots, maybe. You can carve out one of the Syndicate holds or Alterac. But I think Ravenholt Manor being rebuilt as the rogue place would be meaningful to a lot of rogues. Making it better. More defensed as well. More hidden. New Ravenholt, maybe. Now, here's the thing with the Uncrowned. At this point in time, multiple of the Uncrowned are actually crowned. Did you know that? Tess Greymane is basically become... I'm pretty sure Gen stepped down, and Tess is like queen now. Like, it's Queen Tess. So she is crowned. Right? Then we got... Here, let's go over here. We got some more. Marin Noggenfogger leads a cartel. He's always led a cartel. Right? But now he's like part of the Council of Undermine. That's a little crowny. We got Lillian Voss working for Kalia, so that's another, like, working close to the crown. So I'm sitting here like, we can maybe change the Uncrowned. Do I think the Uncrowned is great how it is? Yeah, Halls of Shadows was great, but rogues need their own full base Ravenholt. And then what with the story? Pulling it all together, maybe reforming the order, because Defias dipped. You know, Defias bailed on Vanessa. So one of our recruits here dipped. Now, as far as the Blood Cell, how are they doing? How are the Blood Cell doing? Right? How is Tethys doing? Is he alright? Is he even still around? Is he still the Fleet Admiral? We can get some story there. You know? We can see some more, while we're doing stuff with Priest, with Kalia, we see Lillian Voss working in the shadows to help Kalia and the Priest. That'd be the theme of rogues. Maybe less so Uncrowned, more of... I mean, the rogues are basically the Secret Service, but yeah, maybe they get a new name. You got SI-7, which is Matthias stuff. You know, he is the Secret Service. Then you got Finn. Got some new pirates. Got Freehold. Freehold's vacant right now, man. I feel like some people have cleared out Freehold quite a bit lately, and Freehold may be vacant. Rogue Order Hall, new Ravenholt in Freehold. We go more piratey. You know? Because Ravenholt is like the Assassin's League. You know, then Freehold would be full pirate. If we go Shadowpan, that'd be, you know, you got the ninja. But this area is supposed to be for all of them, which is why the sewer actually kind of worked. But now that I think about it, we got a couple of places for the Rogue Order Hall. But I would like to see either Ravenholt, but maybe a little bit more sneaky, or like I said, Freehold could work. We get a couple of order halls spread out. You know, imagine each continent getting an order hall planning on it somewhere. That would be interesting. So yeah, we got Valeria was up to stuff in BFA, but then she kind of didn't have too much story. Garona was up to a few things. Taoshi hasn't had anything. Jorah Ravenholt hasn't had much. Tess Queen, which is why I'm thinking like maybe. We know one of the members of the Rogue Order Hall ain't with us no more. Alright, how's the SI doing? The SI has been taking a hit after hit. So, I think the Rogues recouping as a story would be a big deal. Most of these Order Halls would be recouping or getting new members. I mean, that would be the whole point. You know, them bringing in more Tauren that have always been here. They've just been hiding. So good. I think would be good for the Rogues. And we get some more Vanessa Van Cleef story, you know. Combination of all the rogues again. Forming a new order. Uncrowned new Defias. Or, it wouldn't, the original Defias, because Vanessa still has some Defias loyal to her, I guess. But she's been having some trouble. But let's move over to Shaman now. So, since Legion, the Earthen Ring have actually been up to stuff. We see them in Dragonflight. We see relatives of members of the Earthen Ring doing stuff. But, like, the Earthen Ring and a new group could have a really cool combination in conversation. You may know what group I'm talking about. Primalists. Now, I've talked about Shaman being moved to more races. You know, we see Night Elf Shaman as Primalists. I think we could get a really interesting story for the Earthen Ring and the Primalists combining with Viranoth at the helm, like the people who defected from Eridikron combining with the Earthen Ring. And us finally figuring out what happened with Magatha and the Doomstone. Did the other Grimtone, is that how he found the Dragon Isles? You know, what happened with him? Kurog, dude. Like, maybe we could find out that he took the Doomstone and that's how he got to the Dragon Isles. Because there is that question, like, yo, how did he get there? The Doomstone. Right? But the Doomstone, the Magatha, the Grim Totem questline for the Shaman, it's like, yo, what even happened with that? Definitely needs to be continued. You know? One of the Fire Lord, the new Fire Lord, Shaman helped out. You want to know that? You know, Shaman helped out the dude become the Fire Lord. And you want to know what he did? Attack a fucking World Tree. Shaman may need to go back into the Firelands and be like, what the fuck are y'all doing in here? Maybe that's where we get hints of what's happened to Farak. Maybe the whole point of Shamans doing something is to stop Farak from becoming the new Fire Lord. Right? Maybe they can't, and he does become the new Fire Lord, and that's a hint for something future. Right? There is plenty Shamans can do with the elements after Dragonflight, and plenty of extra Shaman that need to be added with all the Primalists, right? Druids of the Flame could be included here too. Now, I don't really know where you put the Shaman, right? The Heart of Azeroth, not to be confused with the artifact, is kind of a good spot for Shaman, in a way. It's kind of a cool spot. But I was thinking, like, is there a place that is close to the elements? And actually, one of the places that pops up is Arathi Highlands. Because you got those elemental, like, rings. But that really is the question, right? Where do the Shaman go? Do they go back to the Maelstrom? They got some cool elemental stuff going on in Uldum. I think they could set up shop maybe there. But it would be cool to see the Earthen Ring set up shop somewhere. Maybe on the mainland. Or at least... maybe Deep Home, even. But they deserve at least to expand this. You know, maybe get a couple of more rocks up here. I mean, the view is scenic, but the safety in this order hall, like the safety, you know, is a little bit lacking, as you can see. But I definitely think it could work. And I don't really have the greatest spot. Unless we want to go to Outland, then it kind of like... then it's not Azeroth's elements. But there's plenty of stuff that the Shaman should be handling now. New Fire Lord. Maybe double check the air's doing alright. What is Therazane up to? The Earthen Ring and the Primalist combining New Order, integrating the Earthen Shaman into it. That, you know, would have a lot of info, you know, to reveal. And then this is one that I thought would be cool, right? I always see it. I see people talk about returning artifacts. The Shaman player characters and in some of these quest lines, maybe some of the artifacts could be returned. Maybe the Ashbringer, maybe in the Paladin Order Hall, you do put the Ashbringer away or give it to a new Paladin, maybe Erator or something. Maybe for Shaman, you give Doomhammer back to Thrall because we don't need it. We've already upgraded, right? You know, maybe the new Shaman Order Hall is in Arathi Valley. Or not Arathi Valley, Alterac Valley, right? This could be a spot for the Order Hall. You know? That could be cool. But yeah, I think Shaman could get some new stuff. I think everybody can get some new stuff. But that's kind of what I'm thinking for Shaman. Like I said, you could give Doomhammer back to Thrall as part of the Shaman quests. I think it would be cool. You go to, like, get it out of storage or something and give it, like, yo, here, I don't even need it. You still keep the artifact, you know, for all intents and purposes, but lore-wise, you give it back to the character. Because the main thing with Order Halls for me is the lore. That's like the biggest deal. And now let's move on to Warlock. Warlock actually got some interesting lore, right? You may think, BFA, what did Warlocks get? Not much. Shadowlands, what did Warlocks get? Not much. Dragonflight Warlocks got some interesting, right? We got demon customizations. Something, dude, demon customizations and unlocking stuff like that in an Order Hall situation would be sweet. It'd be like a new age of demon customizations. But Warlocks did get something in Shadowlands. They got that whole Darkmoon Fair quest line and a whole new generation of Warlock recruits. And if you want to count it, we even got Eridar playable. So the Warlock quest line, if they do bring it back, could have Oman. If you remember that Draenei Warlock, was it a Lightforged Draenei Warlock? Have him become part of the Council of the Black Harvest, right? So the Warlock Order is the Council of the Black Harvest. Definitely, I think they need a new name, right? I mean, I guess Warlocks can keep it if it's sentimental, but I feel like they should upgrade. We should get a new Warlock Order. We bring in all these new Warlocks. We bring in Zandalari Demoniacs. We bring in all these even more Warlocks, Eridar, and maybe we get a new Warlock name, new council name. And I also wanted to mention, every time we see Ritson, because we see him when Dalaran explodes, he's dying, and we got to bring him back. That's literally his shtick. So, of course, we bring him back, and he dies again and that stuff. But I really think you got plenty of stuff to work with Warlocks. Like I said, from the one quest line we got where we brought more Warlocks in. We have the council here. I guess we're the last member, right? Is that how the story goes? Either way, this looks like 5. Oh man, could literally be 6 if we're missing 6. We got these ladies back. We got full-grown Eridar. There's plenty of Warlock stuff. Now, where does the Warlock plan its new order hall? Do we just open a new portal to Telegrius Rift? Could be. Right? Imagine a little shortcut in the new Warlock order hall. It goes back to this old one if you want to do Legion stuff. But this one's too basic now. Warlocks deserve an order hall that they don't gotta go to a whole nother planet for. They can plant a nice, cool order hall right here near the Dark Portal. Or at least I feel like they can. Maybe they need a new demon world. Give them a new demon world, at least. Maybe a better, like the Warlock one is cool. But like I said, everyone needs a new one. But I was thinking they could do maybe a new area that they established in the Blasted Lands. Or even in, like, near Blackrock. You got some Warlock activity there. We also got, you know, maybe over here in Ashenfall and Demonfall Canyon. I don't know if Warlocks would want to hold up there. Ragefire Chasm would technically be a spot for Warlocks. But it's too, like, ingrained in a city. Yo, if Warlocks are gonna have an order hall, though, maybe they pull up, at the Tomb. Tomb of Sargeras. You know, maybe they have a new... dude, imagine, like, a Warlock area, like, put into the side of the Tomb. Like, hollowed out, and it's the new Warlock area. That could be cool. But yeah, maybe they do just get a new portal. Because, I can't think of, like, a better... I can think of some locations to put it, but I can't think of, like, a really cool, iconic location to put it, like some other ones. Like this last one. So let's get to the last one, Warrior. If y'all know me, you know where I want to put Warrior. Where do I want to put Warrior? Well, I want to put Warrior on Frey Island. Alright? Now, what could Warriors be about? Where the Warrior Order Hall could actually be about Warriors, not the Titans and Odin and Balazar and Glory and stuff like that, right? The Viking stuff, they hit the Warriors are Vikings, and this is what you get. And listen up. I love all Order Halls. Okay, I love them all. But you know what? This was so stereotypical. We got it. We had our little arena. It was great. But look at this Order Hall. This is one of the few Order Halls I look around and I'm like, yo, where's a warrior I know? You finally did get a warrior you know? And you want to know what it was? You got one. It was faction specific. So for Horde, of course, that's the Keeper of Legends. That's not even my mission table. Or is it my mission table? Oh, see, that's so small. But yeah, you get one dude, and for Horde it's Eitrig, for Alliance it's Darius Crowley. And it's like, this is this is basically the Vrykul Order Hall, but called the Warrior Order Hall. You see what I'm saying? Now, if we were to actually get a full-blown Warrior Order Hall, it would be Warrior... Look at this. Warriors get Titan Keepers. Part of me, that feels like... I mean, it's cool, but it's also like, what? So what I would want to see is Warriors basically like, yo, we're going all the way back to where we learned Whirlwind. You have some of the most retired veteran warriors. We got Greymane. Bane isn't retired, but I want some Horde representation here. So you got Greymane, you got Bane, we got Daneth, we got Etrig. We can have Darius again. But I would love to see all these different kinds of warriors of blood, like all warriors, all races coming to Frey Island to start Warrior Order Hall Fight Club. New order name. In the Warrior one, you join the Valajar. Warriors deserve their own order hall, an own order name, not joining Odin's crew. Alright? Because all Odin is fight and drink. We can do that at home. You're telling me I gotta go to this Titan Keeper's order house, alright, to fight and drink? No, we can do it right at home. Frey Island, new Coliseum, whole new area. I think it'd be great. Alright, we actually bring in warriors. And the whole quest line would be one, establishing Frey Island, actually building it up. You know, it could probably already be started. It would have to be started by the time we get there. But yeah, we building up Frey Island. We going around looking at the new recruits. You know, we get them as bodyguards, but part of it is us training them. Or we can have some of the big bodyguards again, you know, bring Etrig, Darius. But I definitely think warriors deserve to get an actual order hall on Azeroth. And that's it. That's all the classes. I've been going on long enough. I knew this one was going to be long. But yeah. I think they could do a lot with the class order halls. I just went through some of my ideas, you know, to get the ball rolling, you know. And like I said, if they are going to, they do have to give new ones to some. Rogue, Mage, Evokers need a new one. Some they can reuse. Some orders can stick around. Some, I think, need a new spin. But the campaigns, there's so much to do between recruiting, protecting against some forces in regard, hanging out with Loa dragons and all sorts of stuff. There's plenty of characters. I just really want the order halls back in some way for a lot of this story, I think. Because to me, the class stories are what really get me excited. Because that's something else I can play. Right? You know, I can play Alliance or Horde 2. There's some story to be had with the factional stuff, which I like. You know, the heritage stuff. But man, when you actually get to play something different, right? When I play Alliance or Horde, I can play the same class, right? But when you're like, yo, let me try this warrior. Especially with hero talents getting gussied up. I think there's a lot of cool stuff in the hero talents. You got one button mode making it easier. I think this is prime time for us to get really good, unique class stories and people be able to jump around and try it out. Anyways, that's been enough. I'll see y'all next time. Bye-bye.